Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the session number 3 at Hashnode Bootcamp for the technical writing. We already have 2 sessions behind us. So session number 1 was kind of presentation style, and session number 2 was more Q&A oriented. Today we will have also a presentation style sessions. So bear in mind, this session will also have a task for you to complete. Also, what I would like to remind you is that we have an active task from the session number 1. So and maybe if you're not sure if you saw it on a Discord channel, so Edith Young made some announcement that the actual deadline for the session is actually 5 days instead of 7. So sorry for that, and sorry for this short notice. But I think you will manage to do it. You still have some time, and I think you can manage to do it today. So that's just a brief overview of the first 2 sessions. And today we are having a guest, Michaela Greiler, or Dr. Michaela. You will hear the story about the name probably in the introduction. She is a software engineer, PhD, coach, writer, indie hacker. She's also having a podcast. At the moment, she is doing these trainings. She's actually helping software engineering teams in a way that she is improving their code review process, and the actual title of that training is making code reviews your superpower. So I believe she has a lot to say on that topic as well. But and her podcast is Software Engineer Unlocked. I will drop all the links in the chat section so you can check it out. So welcome, Michaela. Thanks for being here. Feel free to start whenever you want. I will go just in a backstage, but if you need any of my assistance, just call me. I will be listening, and so I can drop in any time. So feel free to start whenever you like. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Bruno. Thank you for introducing me. And I'm really excited to talk today about successfully blogging as a developer and growing your audience. So welcome, everybody. I'm very, very excited. Let me share my screen. And then let's have a look. I hope this works nicely. Okay. Can everybody tell me if you can see my slide? I'm not exactly sure with this interface here at Ermit. Yes, okay, so that's great. First of all, I'm really happy to be here and talk about, one of the topics that I'm really passionate about is blogging, because blogging more or less enabled me to really follow my dream. And this is actually an interesting story because when I was, once upon a time, I was studying at the university. So I was doing my bachelor's and my master degree in computer science. And exactly at that time, blogging was starting to become a thing, right? So people started to blog and it got some traction. And so I was actually at some of this, it was called at that point, it was called bar camps, like open conferences, unconferences and things like that. And so people were talking about this thing, blogging. But at that point, it was really like either bloggers blogged about blogging or they blogged about their life, like what they're eating and, what they're doing on a daily basis. And on one hand, I found this really, really interesting and it was intriguing. But on the other hand, it didn't feel like this is something that can make me successful, right? And at that time, when I was studying, I was very much heads down. I studied a lot. I was working hard. I had internships next to my study. Then I went on to really work next to my studies. And so my success idea at that point was, I want to become a researcher in industry. I want to get a research position in the industry. And this was quite hard to get. And so I thought, like, what could help me to gain that? And at that point, my success idea and how to reach success was while studying and working hard. And so this is what I did. And I went on to do a PhD as well in software engineering, still heads down, studying, working. But what I also started to do during my PhD is to publish. I didn't blog. I blogged a little bit, to be honest, and I will come back to that in a bit. I blogged a little bit, but most of the things that I did, I was writing scientific papers, right? So I was publishing things. I was writing for scientific journals, or I was presenting at conferences. So I actually flew around the world and was giving talks and talking about my research. And because of this, I could actually build up sort of a network. And because of this network, it was not because of the studying. I mean, this was probably the fundamental thing for it, but the reason, I think, why I got my job was definitely that I was publishing my stuff, and that I was talking on conferences, that I was building relationships, that I was networking. And so when it was time to get a job, I actually was asked to apply for a position at Microsoft. And I think this was very crucial also to, get my foot into the door. So when you are asked to apply, you already have a little bit of a credibility. And so I think this was very, very, very important. And then I got what was my dream job, right? This is what I worked towards for a long time. And so I was, again, very much like I learned for the last, let's say, 10 years of my university career. I was heads down, working really hard, working with teams. I worked with Office, with Visual Studio, with Exchange, with all of the large product teams, and it helped them with their testing, with their build processes, and with their code review strategies, with their tools, with their processes. And I laughed every day, and I felt like I really arrived. I accomplished what I set out to do. But I was not thinking about that things can actually change. And if you ever worked for a large organization, and probably even for smaller ones, one thing that is very permanent is the change. And so reorganizations that, the divisions are changed, outlooks are changed, missions are changed. This is happening all the time. And this is also what happened to my team, because we started from a research perspective and we developed actually some tools that really got traction. Somehow our team, over time, transformed into a product team. And so they reduced or replaced is probably the right word, replaced our boss, right? So the team got a new boss, and this boss wasn't really a fan of research. This guy was a product guy. And it's good to be a product guy for a product team, but it's not so good for the researchers. So we as researchers weren't really happy. And so also the role that I had to do at Microsoft changed. And at that point, I was thinking, well, maybe something should change. At the same time, I also got my own family, and I felt like, well, flying around the whole world all the time, whenever somebody says you have to fly now, and doing whatever somebody tells you is not really what my success is, what I see as success anymore. And so I was thinking, what should be now my next move, right? So what should I do now? And when I was looking around, I saw that there was a lot of work that I have done that was just internal to the company. So the company obviously owned all my accomplishments, which is right, they paid me for it. But on the other hand, it was also a little bit short-sighted. Luckily, I also published, I still continue to publish, and I had the one or the other blog post. But when I was in this transition phase, I really decided, well, if I want to do what I'm doing right now, or what I did, right? I want to do this research, but I wanted to do it on my own terms. I want to do it more independent, with more flexibility. How can I achieve that? And blogging was definitely something that came to my mind. And so I started out to blog. And I started to write about everything that I was doing at Microsoft. What did I accomplish there? What did I help people with, teams with? Obviously, I kept confidential information confidential, but what I could say, I shared online. And because of this, and I think this is really important, this was like one of the cornerstones, I think, that I could actually take the lead. And I left Microsoft in end of 2019. So now it's almost a year. And what I can say is that I didn't blog, and you will hear me say that very often. I didn't blog every day. I didn't write tons of blog posts. I didn't start a media company, but I started a successful consultancy and training company. And the blog was one of the main reasons why I was able to do that. And right now I can say that I managed to, exceed the salary that I got at Microsoft with my company and training company. And I think it really is due to the blogging that I did here. So today I want to share with you how I did it and my view on the whole topic. There are a lot of blog posts out there. If you want to know how to start a tech blog, there are many resources that you can actually go. But today I show you a little bit a tinted version of what I think is important. And so when I started blogging, there were two things that were really important to me. One was I'm focusing on quality and not on quantity. And the other one is I'm very focused on my goals. I don't want to spend, writing blog posts every day and night to compete with the large amount of blog posts that there are out there. But I want to write that's what's really important to me and stand out in a way that helps me to, achieve my goals. And so the whole talk, and maybe if you take something with you, it's really about thinking about your own success. What does success mean to you? And if you think about my story, I think success and what it means can change over time. At one point, it was, being a researcher in industry. That was what I wanted to achieve and what was success for me. And that changed over time. Now it's really the independence that I can, decide what I'm going to do, which clients to take on, when to work, with whom to work, what to do, right? What to focus on. And it could be something completely different for you. And so what I want you to do now is I want you to think about a couple of seconds. We don't have so much time. I want you to think, why do you want to blog? What should be the outcome? Because if you know that, that's really important to get to your goal, right? To take the right actions. And there are a lot of actions that you can take with blogging. So think a little bit, what do you want to blog? And if you want, you can share it in the live chat. I'm actually looking at it and I will read through the things as well. What do you think that you will get out if you are blogging? It's about experience, okay? Mostly to keep a journal of my learnings and maybe to help someone along the way about the problems I face. Best practices in software development. Well, this is more a topic. So really, why do you want to? What's your motivation to blog? Improve myself, to build an audience, okay? Potential job offers, yeah? I like to share my journey and inspire others, okay? Some things that I wish somebody taught me before, right? Teaching others, education, expressing my wealth of knowledge, to have fun and helping others, build an audience. Well, there are a lot of things, right? So there are a couple of things, and I try to group them. There are probably even more things, and we will go through this whole list. You can go through this whole wealth of things, of the different motivation, why people are actually blogging. And you can see some motivations are completely different from yours, right? So what you can do, and this is probably one of the things that comes up very often with developers, is, you are enforcing your own learning, right? Or you're improving your communication skills, your ability to express yourself. It could be that you want to demonstrate your skills or your knowledge. It could be that you want to improve your marketability, so finding a job easier, or clients. Well, maybe you want to give back to community. It's a little bit what I'm doing today. Or you want to enhance your network. Maybe you want to validate ideas. Maybe you're working on a product and you get feedback through your blog. Well, you can build a business or a side business based on a blog. And then there's a very vague one, serving your future self. I think it's an interesting one. I put it on there, but it's a little bit contra what I want to teach you, which is be very deliberate with your goals, right? Because you don't know what your future self will want you to have done, right? So it's a little bit like, okay, I'm tapping my foot in, I'm blogging a little bit, but I don't know exactly what I want to reach, right? So whenever you know what you want to do, I think this is really important. And why is this important? Because, and this is also a message that I want you to take with you, you can have a successful blog without readers. This sounds crazy, right? Why? Well, if you're thinking about, if you want to improve your credibility, if you want to improve your expressiveness, your communication skills, or for learning, you don't need another person to actually read your stuff to reach that goal, right? It's enough that you're writing it down. Obviously, this is not where we want to stop, right? We don't want to stop here because we are talking about growing an audience. But I think this is a very fundamental and important concept to keep in mind, that it's not very often nowadays, we are all about this, oh, it must be viral. And if there are not 100,000 people on my blog, I'm not very successful. But it really comes down to, what does success mean to you? And so this is just an example of what can success mean with these different motivations or goals for blogging, and what does this mean for your audience, right? And so, as I said, if you have like learning and communication skills as your main goal for blogging, then maybe it's enough if you're blogging. You don't need a reader. Maybe you have one, which is nice. If you want to demonstrate skills and improve your marketability, you have to have one person, right, that's impressed by your content that you're putting out there. And that's the hiring manager, or, that's a colleague that then refers you, right? So this is something you don't need 100,000 people. You don't need 1,000 people. You don't need 100 people looking at your content. You can achieve all of those goals with the right people looking at the right content, at the content that you are producing. And then finally, there are many goals like networking, community, and business, where you need a little bit more users or readers on your blog. But again, I don't think, and I'm a big believer of that, and this is also how I build up my business, you don't have to have 100,000 people looking at your blog. You can start actually small. And so, on the other hand, we don't want to have something like that, right? So we don't want to make a presentation and there's nobody listening. I wouldn't do it today. Maybe I would do it for practicing, but if you practice 10 times, you're not doing it again, right? So on one hand, you want to have people in your audience. You want people to read your stuff. You also maybe want this exchange that people tell you, well, I find this idea great, right? For the validation idea, for example, or even for your communication skills. If somebody said, well, you expressed it extremely well, you're learning something, or I didn't understand this, right? Can you clarify? Maybe you had a problem in your thinking. So somehow we need others to strive. So how do we get others, and how can we successfully blog? And this is where I want to show you my pyramid. Sorry, this was my phone. My pyramid, and it's I use this also for code reviews, but then it's on code reviews. And this is the blogging pyramid, right? It's a little bit like Maslow's pyramid of need. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but this is like, if you have like a base, this is the base that you really have. It's the foundation of your house, more or less, right? So you cannot get something wrong here. But then as you go higher up, this is actually optional. And so I called it the must-do of blogging, right? So this is really what I think is very important for now and for the future, and that this is the foundation. If you get that right, you have a good foundation. You can build upon that. Then there are the should-dos of blogging, which I think it's very valuable if you do it. And then there are some might-dos. It depends on your goals, on your strategy, on your time limit, on many things. You can do it. There are also many ideas about this, right? And so let's have a look at the must-do of blogging. It's understanding your goals, owning your content and your domain, and building relationships. And so I want to go into each of those. And I already stressed that at the beginning, so I'm not going too much into it, but I really want you to take that away. It's goals and motivation. And this is very similar to what I teach in my code review workshops. If you don't know why you're doing code reviews, you cannot have a good return of investment for your practice. And if you don't know why you're blogging, you cannot know how to measure your success, your return of investment, and you don't know when you're successful. You don't know which actions to take, right? So really understand your goals, and then from these goals, you can derive a strategy. Well, how often do I blog? What type of content do I blog? How do I promote my content? How much time do I use for that? And so on, right? And then you can reflect on that and improve. And so this is a very spiral loop. Own your content and domain. And here I want to come back to the story that I started with, right? So I was blogging a little bit during my PhD. So I was working as a researcher at the university. And at that time, every employee had like a little blog on the university website. I actually, at that point, had already my actual blog, right? My domain with my blog. But because of the credibility of the university, and also because they somehow encouraged us to blog on their website, I blogged actually on their website. So I was writing about my research under my name. I got a little space over there on their website, and it was Michaela Greiler, and I could blog my stuff there, right? And so this is what I actually did. And people were linking to it. There were even Wikipedia articles, which is, if you get a link from Wikipedia, is very good, pointing to my content that I wrote. The problem was that when I left the university, they actually changed to a different CMS, content management system. And the last thing on their priority list was to migrate the content of former employees. I was not at the university anymore, and actually, frankly, they didn't care. So all my content that I blogged during that time just vanished away. And I can tell you this is hurtful, especially when I was looking for, new roles and everything else. This is really hurtful, right? So this means that there are links throughout the web that tell stories about me or my work. And if you click them, they're broken. This is not, first of all, it's not good, right? It's not nice for me. It's very sad. And second of all, I don't have the content, right? There is no backup of this content. It's just vanished. And so this is a university, and this happened to a university, but it could happen everywhere, right? Where you're blogging on a place that's actually not yours. And it's also important that all the links that you are getting, you should have them on your own domain. Invest those $10, $20, I don't know, $30, depending on how fancy your URL is, right? Maybe $50. Invest that, because it's a very good investment for later on. And then build relationships, right? It's so important. And I'm not saying here, build an audience. I'm not saying build a readership. I'm saying build relationships, and not hundreds, thousands, but with a few key people. Like have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people that you really have deep connections, that you know what they are doing, and they are actually interested in what you are doing. And you can do that online as well. You can reach out via different social media, Facebook, Twitter, Skype, right? You can build relationships on Hashnode and so on. And so this is really, really important. And it's much more important than all the growth strategies that I could tell you or explain to you today. And this is actually the foundation. If you do that, if you own your content, if you have your own domain, this is already really important. And then if you're building those relationships, and then there are things that you can do, and I think it's very good if you do them. And this is thinking about your credibility and your authenticity. So what means credibility? Well, credibility in a very broad sense could be a certificate from a university, but it doesn't have to be, right? It's just something that you can show to others that you are knowing that, right? So that you have some knowledge about that, right? This is also when I tell you, about my blog and my blogging experience, I tell you also, why you can actually believe me, or why you can, listen to me. There are many people that are talking about blogging, and they have different experiences. You can always, you have to think about how to phrase it in a way that it's really reflective of your skills and strengths. It's important that you not masquerade as somebody else, right? So if you're, for example, learning Python and Django, then you can start blogging about that. You don't have to be, the master of that already. You can start, but don't express that you are Django and Python expert. You say, I'm learning Django right now. Look how exciting. I learned this today, right? And so you can write all these really, really helpful blog posts about the thing that you are currently learning. And there's actually, it's called the expert blind spot, right? So you are in an advantage to an expert writing about stuff for example, beginners, because as an expert, you forgot about all of that, right? All what's hard, you forgot about the struggles, the little nitty-gritty that you actually have to do to solve a certain problem or to overcome an obstacle. So you're actually in a very good position to blog about something that you're not an expert in, but don't pretend to be one. Say you don't know, right? You're learning, and try to, be the best and most useful, valuable resource out there. And the good thing is, that once you are an expert, so if you're writing about Django and building your Python Django applications, right, you will become the expert in that. And by the time that you are the expert, everybody knows it already. They know. They have followed your way for a year, for 2, for 3, whatever, right? So they know, oh, this person over there, right, is the Django expert. So there are other things, right? Think a little bit what makes you unique. What are your strengths? Maybe cat pictures are your strengths, right? So this is also an interesting one. And what makes you stand out? And now this is a little bit more growth strategy, syndicating your content, right? What is syndication? Syndication is actually that you are copying what you wrote on your blog to somebody else's blog. But the really important thing here is that you're using or setting a canonical URL. That's a meta tag that tells, the search engines, for example, that this is not duplicated content, right? Nobody plagiarized you. But it's a syndication, and and it points to the original source. This is your blog. And so this also means that if somebody, links to it, it's your SEO juice, right? So search engine optimization uses that, right? So somehow the links are counting towards your credibility, your domain authority. What's also really important is, especially if you're syndicating content to larger sites, which is very usual, what you usually do is they have more credibility, more authenticity. So if you're not having a canonical URL, they will think, well, this credible site, right, is the original source, and you are the one plagiarizing it, right? So this is a problem. So whenever you're syndicating, and there are many sites to syndicate your content, which is a good strategy to do, make really sure that you set the canonical URL. And if it's not allowed, I would think 10 times about if I put my content there, right? You can see it then as a guest posting, right? So you're writing another original thing over there, and you can incorporate that in your strategy. But don't just, syndicate your content without a canonical URL. Think about your readers. And this is probably even more important than syndication. If you look at the pyramid, I actually switched those. Think about your readers. And this starts with the content that you're writing, right? So is it valuable? Very often we are very consumed by ourselves, right? So we want, and if you're going back to the goals, we want to write something because we want to understand it better. We want to write something to learn, right? We want to write something to demonstrate our skills. And so this is a very natural and very human way of thinking, but we want actually to change that. And so to change that, you have then, if you wrote a blog post, whatever, right? Go and think, what's valuable for my reader? How can I rephrase the things? How can I, put more value for them? And then also, how can I keep your audience, right? So maybe have a newsletter there, which I think is very important. And again, you can have like Twitter, for example, and have people following you there. But again, you don't own that, right? So you can't influence the algorithm. They can change that every day. They can ban or block your account. So if you have your own mailing list, I would definitely encourage you to do that. It's harder work to build it up. But let's say 50 people on your own mailing lists are definitely worth more than, let's say, 500 or even 2,000 or 5,000 people on a Twitter platform, or any platform, so to speak. Well, you should know the basics of SEO. SEO, I see it that way, that it's this organic flywheel that you're building. So right now we're talking about syndication is you have to do something, right? This is work. You go somewhere and syndicate your content. To promote your content, you have to do something. If you have good SEO, this means that you're understanding search intent. Why are people coming to your site? Why would your site be useful? You're doing some keyword research, right? You're setting the right meta tags, title, description, for example. One thing is only one H1 tag, right? So there are some basic things. Don't go too deep and crazy about it, but there are some basic things, and I have it on this site. Have a fast and mobile-friendly site. If you're with Hashnode, right, a lot of the things are already taken care of for you. But then people will find, the reader will find you without you doing anything, right? They will find answers to their question, and you don't have to do something. And now I'm here with the might do. You don't have to do it. But there are some advantages, and if it fits your strategy, it's a good one, right? And this is niche down. I gave a few examples. I started myself because it's the easiest to tell you my reasons why I'm doing it. I niched down. So I'm now specializing on code reviews. Code reviews were not the only thing I did at Microsoft. I was doing a lot of data-driven work for them for build, making their build faster, breaking up build graphs, right? Helping the system to be more componentized. I was doing a lot of things. I helped them with testing, with test strategies. But to be an expert and to be known for that is a lot of work for all of those things, right? You also have a lot of different clients, a lot of different work to do. And this is why I, for example, niche down. And what I'm doing is I'm making code reviews teams superpower. This is what I'm doing and nothing else. So if you want me to, help you with componentizing your system or, breaking up your build graphs, I definitely have the skills, the expertise there, but that's not really my portfolio because I want to, this is a little bit like with SEO truths, right? I want to have my efforts go in the right direction. And it's easier for people to remember me. The same with Can't See Dots, right? Can't See Dots is very known for testing. And he wrote the testing library or was a big part of writing the testing library. And so this is how he actually grew his readership. And now when at one point that you reach like this platform and this stable business, then you can expand, you can be bigger than, this niche that you started. So now he's doing also React. There are also other examples, and you can look them up. I think it's really interesting to see what people are doing. Like there's Pete from no CS degree, right? And I think I don't have to explain very much what his niche is, but he writes articles about having no CS degree and being successful in computer science or, in tech. There's Victor Freitas, and this is very different because he's really about Python and Django. And when I was starting Python and working with Python and Django, I was always on his side. He knew everything that I will need to know, right? So I think that when he started to learn Python and Django, he wrote everything down. He just documented everything that he had to learn. And so this is how every time I had the Django problem, I can tell you from 10 times, I was 9 times on his website. Finally, there's Rosie Sherry, and she, for example, is all about communities. So if you want to know how to strive or to build a community, she's the right resource. So these are examples of people that are niching down. You don't have to do it, but there are advantages to it. It really depends on what you want to be known for, what your goals are. Like if you want to increase your chances to get a next job, maybe niching down is not the best because you want to show the breadth of what you're knowing, right? If you just blog because you want to improve your communication skills, right? Or if you want to, blog because you want to deepen your learning, then blog about everything that comes to your mind, right? If you want to have a really, frequently visited blog, maybe niching down is also not the best idea because a niche means also you have only a small tab of readers that are interested in what you are writing about. Anyway, there are a few last things that I want to give you or tell you about growing your readership. And this is, you can do guest blogs, like I said, right? So you can go to a bigger blog, especially if it's in your area, and then ask them if you can write for them. But do it in a way that you really provide value to them. I get a lot of ask for people to guest blog on my blog. But then, for example, they ask me if they can, publish this blog about remote work furniture. And I'm like, no, this has nothing to do with my blog, or just remotely with my blog. Anyway, you can also use sites like Hacker News, Reddit, Twitter, Facebook, social media, right, to promote it. Hacker News and things like this. Sometimes you get a lot of visitors from Hacker News, and this is great. Like you have 10,000 people on your site. I think I got once 40,000 people on my site just from one link that was viral. And this is wild, right? It feels really good. But here comes again this flip side, like how many people of those people looking at your site are actually your client or, fit your goal strategy, are here for learning, are here for building relationships, are here for your products, whatever, right? And there's actually only a small percentage of those. I actually got, for example, I'm starting streaming now on Twitch, and I have really a little, only 3 people, 5 people, something like that, watching my streams. But I got a large consultancy client from that, a big client, and the really nice work just from one person, right? It has to be the right person that is on your stream. So you don't need really a lot of people all the time. I really want you to go away from this crazy, all these metrics, and I'm only successful if, there are thousands of people on my side. Well, and then something that's really useful, and I try to do, it's hard work as well, is to reuse your content, right? So there's this strategy, reusing your content 3 times, which I think is really, really valuable. Well, so this is my pyramid. It's really about, the must-dos of blogging. We talked about them. So really understanding your goals, owning your content, I think is so important. Building relationships, real relationships with a few people, a couple of people, and this will be your success. I can guarantee you that. This is your success, not the 100,000 people that are reading. Unless you are in the ad business, then that's the strategy. Then the should-do of bloggings are credibility and authenticity, right? I think this is so important. Think about SEO. Don't make it hard on you, right? Think about your readers, syndicate your content, and then, you don't have to, like many people, and this is maybe also something that I'm really against, is a lot of people say, if you don't blog every week, you will not make it, every month, every day. I'm blogging really whenever I have time, whenever I think this is now the right priority in my business to do it. And still, I will say my blog is really important for my business. It's the backbone of my business as well, right? Well, perfect is the enemy of good. Really take that to heart. If you're not an English speaker like me, go ahead and write that blog post, start that podcast, make that video. It doesn't matter. Some people will love your accent, your mistakes. Some people will hate it, but just get over this fear of, you have to be perfect to do it. You don't have to be an authority in your field. You can learn, but be honest about it. You don't have to have everything figured out, and you don't have to do all the steps, right? I showed you all the steps, and even that for, some of the posts, I don't do the SEO because I just write them down and I publish them. And then maybe later on I go and do a little bit SEO work. But no, and then do one step at a time. And over time, you really bound it up. So this compound effect is also very strong in blogging and everything that you learn. Well, finally, if you really look closely, most overnight successes took a long time, right? This is Steve Jobs. And I think this is really something you have to take to your heart. And so just blog and, put yourself out there, get over your fear. I have a last task for you, and Bruno talked about this. I want you to write about successful blogging means to me, right? So this is this theme. And so there are some parts that should be in that, and maybe Bruno can send you the slide later on. But, well, what are the first 3 steps that you take to accomplish your goal, right? First of all, you define the goal. Then what are the first 3 steps that you take? And then in a month from now, what do you want to have accomplished? And in a year from now, what do you want to have accomplished? And then also think about the title. This is like SEO and thinking about the reader, right? Everybody can have a different title for the same blog post that they're writing. And think about the reader as well. I actually wrote a blog post quickly about what I presented today. So there's like the URL over there. So if you want to have a look, just to refresh your mind what I talked with you today, you can go here. And this brings me actually to the Q&A. I tried to be really fast and finish in time so that we have a little bit time for chit chat. And maybe the last things, I would appreciate if you look at my podcast. It's seunlocked.com, or my code review things is awesomecodreviews.com. And I'm also on Twitter if you want to engage there. Feel free to reach out. My DMs are also open.
Okay, thanks for the great session. So we will start shortly with this Q&A. We don't have too much time, but we will fire up some questions. So let's start with the first one. So the question is, how do we match what we want to share with what the audience is looking for?
Okay. Well, first of all, I think whatever you want to share, you should share it, right? So I would go about it that way, right? If you want to talk about a specific problem or a specific topic, then you probably have your reason for this need or for this desire to actually talk about it. And then if you have written this blog post, you can actually think, what can others learn from it, right? So probably there's something internal that you want to get out here. But then you can turn it around and think, well, if I read that, what can I learn from this experience? You can always learn something, right, from something else. And so this could either be a different blog post, right? I don't think that every blog post must be an answer to a reader. You can have blog posts just for yourself, and maybe somebody stumbles upon them and think, well, this is really useful as well. It's very valuable as well. And you can also either transform this blog post or, write the second one that's more focused on the reader. And this is a good exercise for you. And it's not only for blogging, for everything. Like, how do we engage with other people? If you're stepping out of our, this is all about me. What do I want? What do I want to say? But what do others want to hear? What answers are they seeking for? And so, I think this is a good exercise. I would just write it and then transform it in something that the reader would like to see.
Yeah. Second one is, should you force yourself to write if you don't feel like writing?
This is a tricky one. I don't think you should force yourself, but I'm currently writing a book, right? And I wrote already a couple of books before. I wrote also the PhD thesis and papers, and I'm not always feeling like writing. And there is writer's block, right? So the worst thing is to stare on a blank page, right? And then also there's this perfectionism that we have, right? So what I'm doing is, and this is a very simple rule that you can actually follow, and I think it's very powerful, is for the book, for example, we have like a goal of writing 400, from my PhD thesis, for example, I had 400 words per day, right? For the book, we have like 2,000 words per week, something like this. You have to adjust it to your time constraints. And it doesn't matter, if it's a good structure or, the flow is good. It's really just about this number. And here numbers can be really, really powerful. So you're writing down, and your goal is, let's say, every week I'm writing 500 words, right? And this is probably too big. So maybe every day you're writing 100, right? Every weekday you're writing 100 words. And then if you have like those 500, it's much easier to edit those into a very nice blog post than writing a very nice blog post from scratch. And so I think this is something that I would do. I would have like an easy to accomplish goal. 100 words is not that hard, right? And you write 100, and I probably what will happen is you write those 100 words and you write another 100 and maybe even another 100. And then you're like stuck, like, oh my God. And it's far away from a blog post, but you have 300 words. And next day you write another 100, not 300, 100. And so on, right? And then I think this is what I would do, and this is what I'm doing, and I think this is very powerful.
Yeah, great advice. The next one is, how can you use blogging to effectively network and build relationships?
Yeah, I think that, so what I said at the beginning, so I don't have hundreds of blog posts on my site. I have, I think, very high quality blog posts on my site. And I have blog posts that, every blog post somehow has some intent for me, right? Sometimes it's just, I want to have it, out there. It's not really thinking about the others, very much to what we had in the first question. Sometimes it's really, I want others to read that and learn something from it, right? And so I really think that you can ask questions, right? You can share it with others, and relationships, as I said, it's one-on-one, right? So I'm, for example, sharing most of my blog posts with a couple of people, maybe 2, 3, 4 people, not always the same because you're over, it's too much work for them. But so I have a couple of people that I share my blog posts that I know they like to read them. And they give me feedback. And this is a relationship, right? This is not a business relationship. I don't want them to buy anything from me. But I think it's one of the most valuable assets that I have are those people around me that I don't want to sell anything, right? But I'm sharing, and they're interested in my work, and they give me feedback. And so I would really focus a lot on building those connections with people.
Okay, the next one is pretty much common. So how can one overcome imposter syndrome as a blogger?
I think this comes back to really being honest and authentic about yourself, right? So very often, and this is when you look at like this SEO advice, coming especially out of this tech scene, right? People would say, well, you have to say that you're an authority here. And, people, the first sentence must make clear that they can trust you. And I don't think that developers are wired that way. They can look right through it, right? They know exactly that you are full of it. So overcoming this imposter syndrome is really being humble. And it's very much like code reviews, right? So being humble and really, I'm writing this and I hope it's useful for you. And I did my best, I put actually a lot of work in that, and I did my best to write that down, and probably it's not flawless. So if you're getting this, and I'm learning here, and try to go away from this, I have to show that I'm authority here, that I have figured it all out, right? I think this is very important. And actually, I think the more, like, for example, I have a master's, a bachelor degree, and a PhD degree, worked at Microsoft and so on, and still I'm having imposter syndrome. And it doesn't matter the degree that you're doing or another, course that you're doing, right? When I started my business, I was at Microsoft, and I thought, like, what will be my next step? Blogging was not the first thing that came to my mind. I thought I should do an MBA, right? If I want to start a business, I'm doing an MBA now, right? And this is imposter syndrome. It's like, oh, I have to learn first before I can do anything. And it's not going away. So I think you have to deal with it by being authentic. I'm building in public, right? I tell people, well, I'm now on Twitch and I don't know what I'm doing. If you want to see me struggle, come and watch me, right? And I think this takes a lot of this pressure away that you have to be this perfect streamer now, right? I don't even have the time, the capacity, and the willingness to be a perfect streamer right now. I could maybe have my whole setup better and things like this, but I think there's so much energy going in the wrong direction. What I'm doing right now, I'm streaming, and I'm sharing my sessions as they are happening, and I'm learning along the way. But I'm also honest about it. I tell them I don't know what I'm doing here, but please feel free to help me. And I think this is, and in a year or maybe in two, streaming will not be that difficult for me anymore, right? So I will be on a different level. And I think this is really what I would do and what I'm doing with my imposter syndrome, because obviously I'm also having it, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said it's pretty much common, and it's pretty much a powerful message coming from you, with especially from someone with such education and working experience. So yeah, it's I would like everyone to just to take note on that. So yeah, okay, we are kind of short on time. I would close this Q&A session. Sorry for other questions. We didn't make it, but you can still ask Michaela on Twitter or I don't know, any other place.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I actually thought that I will maybe stream about this on Twitch as well. So I will maybe tweet out something. If you hop on my Twitch stream, I can, continue with your questions over there. And so that would be cool. Yeah. My Twitch channel. Yeah. I have to look that up. And then it's actually Dr. Michaela, I think is the channel, but I don't know it by heart actually. Let me see. I will put it in here. And then we can continue a little bit over there if you want.
Okay. So, yeah, I have some short announcement. So for this presentation, we also have this task from you, and one thing that I mentioned at the beginning with this 5 days deadline, it's actually reverted back to 7 days. So don't worry, it's 7 days after each session. So you have 7 days for that one previous, and also for this one, also 7 days from today. So yeah, thanks everyone for attending here this session. We will share some links later, and maybe even this task later. The next guest and the next session is on Monday. We will have Ido Shamun, co-founder of Daily Dev. You probably heard about him if you are here part of Hashnode community. Yeah, he will talking about how what it takes to write for AAA publications, and yeah, definitely also interesting session. So yeah, make sure that you come and see him talking live. So yeah, thanks Michaela for having you. It was a great session, great listening to you. You had so much experience to share, and yeah, for the others, if you have still session, yeah, as Michaela said, she will continue streaming on Twitch. You can shift there, and yeah, that's it for today.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.